Well, just when you thought it wasn't safe to go out in the parks. Hey everybody, welcome back once again. You know it is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. Great to see you all here. I'm going to let everybody get in on the stream, so I'm going to give it a couple minutes, let everybody get into the discussion. I just went live. So that way everybody, ooh, got a lot of things cooking around here today. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes before let everybody come into the stream, and I already see we got a couple in here. Welcome. Hey Machine, welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, you're on the phone. Oh, cool. Cool. How you doing? Machine's over there playing with the tornadoes, so I had to get that in there really quick. You're playing with the tornadoes over there. Alrighty. Well, we got two, we got one, we got two, we got one. It depends on how many people get on the stream, so. Alrighty. Well, I figured I'd start it a little bit different today. I want to discuss that thing about, oh, you're in the closet. Oh, you got to come out of the closet once in a while. Just kidding. Just kidding. I had to add it in. You caught me. Don't forget your drinking snacks, too. All right. This is the deal. This is where we're going to start with today. This is where we're going to start with today. We're going to be talking about Intel. I know I made a video on about the snake oil that Intel was putting out there, and you know, I got somebody that wrote me in and said, you know, this, you know, everybody makes a joke off of Intel. Okay, nobody made, and I'm gonna make this point very carefully. Nobody made a joke out of Intel. Intel, with their media and what they put out there, they made a joke of themselves. Because obviously they embarrassed themselves trying to embarrass AMD. So, and a lot of reviewers caught it. Even though that they had a couple good points, but they had a lot of bad points. So, I don't take it as a joke. I take it serious when you try to call somebody else out, especially on the internet, and you try to make yourself look like the big guy of it all. But you just can't do it that way. That's not the way you do it. Okay. Now, I do have a video on it, but I'm not joking about it. So, you know, this I take seriously, especially when I got all my subscribers and viewers watching my videos for the simple fact everybody's wondering what Intel is going to be doing. Oh, let me guess. Meteor Lake. Everybody's waiting to see what Meteor Lake is about. You know what? I'm going to tell you like this. I'm not waiting to see what Meteor Lake is about. I'm not waiting to see what the 8000 series from AMD is about. I'm not waiting for the 9000 series to see what it's about until I see it come out. And I'm going to state this very carefully. Until I see it come out, there's not much to talk about. Okay? But Intel, you made an embarrassment. You turned around. You took your 11th gen, jumped it to 12th gen, then jumped it to 13th and then 14th, and then said, guess what? New motherboard for everybody. That's what the real deal is. That's what you're trying to cover up. So anybody that got the 14 gen Intel, if you're going to go to 15 gen Meteor Lake, you need a new motherboard. That's the reason why I didn't buy Intel yet, because I'm not going to be the kind of person that's going to take and turn around and go to a dead-end platform. Even though that I'm on AM4, it's still not a dead-end platform, because AMD is still producing processors for AM4. They're going to be putting out 2 new X3D processors. What has AMD or what has Intel done with their last gen or any of their generations? They haven't done nothing. I mean, that's disappointing. And they do these constant refreshes and then tell everybody, "Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Don't get mad about it." Okay? But you have to understand something. You're not bringing nothing new to the table. AMD's now bringing new things to the table. They're not jumping. They did a couple times. I'm going to hand that to, AMD, Anytime you go up a generation, this is what your consumers want to see. Anytime you go up to the next generation, they want to see something new on the table. But as far as I can see, and me going back in generations and doing my reviews and everything else, and I'm thinking to myself, going from the current generation, going back one and back one and back one and back one, you can see a pattern. Okay? People are not stupid. You can see a pattern every damn time. And between Intel and AMD with their processors, they've done this for years. And they tell you, oh, it's the next best thing. It's coming up. The next best thing is coming up. No, the next best thing is basically the same software, but just an update. Just like Microsoft does from Windows 95. The only refresh they really had was going from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. And then from there on, it was an update. And you know what? We're still based off of the architecture from back on Windows 95. It's just been upgraded, renamed. Everybody needs to wake up to this. Okay? I hate to tell you this, but it's true. I mean, when they do new platforms, they say, oh, well, hello, John Paul. Welcome to the channel. This is a little bit of a rant that I'm doing right now about this, because this has kind of got me a little bit upset. Because all these companies, they sit there and tell everybody, guess what? We got something new for you. And you know what? What caught my eye to all this was that when I'm sitting there looking at, and going back from the early 80s, okay, to now, all I'm seeing is basically like if you're taking your software and you're just folding it up, stacking it on top one after another like pancakes. So basically, You're just updating. And that's pretty much what we're getting right now. Until somebody busts it wide open and tells everybody, look, all we're getting is updates. We're not getting anything new. We're not getting anything fresh. You know, the AIB partners are the only ones that are coming up being constructive. And look at it, Asus being constructive with the 4060 Ti, the one with the PCI lanes of X8. Look how constructive they got. They took the other lanes and they made it to where you can plug an M.2 card in there, an SSD. That's being constructive. That's okay. Sometimes you need to get it off. Yeah, well, I know. I'm trying. I really am. I'm trying because, you know, it makes me upset. I'm just watching this happen day after day after day after day. And everybody says, okay, well, guess what? We got a new chip here. We got a new chip here. We got a new chip here. We got a whole new silicon right here. We're doing this different with the silicon. But you're not doing anything different with the software. Oh, God. They're not doing anything to really show any improvements on the software. That's what really pisses me off. I mean, I bought a RTX 4070. I'm sitting here waiting for the next best thing with this GPU. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen anytime soon. Because they have it locked down at 200 watts. They have it, the power locked down only at 2.1% above overclocking, which that doesn't really mean much. Y'all tell me, you can tell me in the chat. Does it mean much when you're operating your system and you try to overclock it just a little bit? At least try to get 5% out of it, but you're only getting 1 to 2 to 3%, and that's it. You're not getting a 10% upclock. No. What's the deal? And they turn around and, you know, they turn around and show everybody how they overclock. Intel did. On how they overclock on LN2. Okay, that's coolant. Basically, they got to keep the processor so cold to get it up over 6 gigahertz. Well, look at from the last couple years, how many times they tried to get it up over 6 gigahertz. When are we going to see a processor that starts off at a base clock of 6 gigahertz? When are we going to start seeing that? That's my point. We should be up and over 6 gigahertz. We should be at the minimal baseline of 6 gigahertz. No, we're still sitting between 2.9 and 4.6 to about 4.9. But you don't see any processors sitting at baseline over 5 to 6 to 7 gigahertz. And tell me if I'm wrong. They had the last couple years of doing this and they haven't done this. Why? They talk about, well, we got the best silicon. Okay, prove it. Think about it, guys. Really, think about it. I mean, this has been bothering me forever now. You know, they tell me, oh yeah, well, Intel says, oh, well, we got our processor up to 9 gigahertz. Probably when the chips go to being made from graphene and not silicon. Okay, well, but are we going to see that in the next 50 years? That's the question, John Paul. Are we going to see that in the next 50 years? Nobody knows. These companies aren't saying nothing to the reviewers. Look at how many times they've been hiding their product from the reviewers. That's the point. They've been hiding the product away from the reviewers. Look at the 4060 Ti, 16 gigabytes. Point proven. How many times have they been hiding the, the processors and everything else? They've been hiding a lot of stuff. How come none of the reviewers here in the United States didn't get any of the GRE GPUs? Product test. Nobody says nothing about that. Nobody says nothing about that. Everybody's sitting on their hands waiting to see what they're going to be doing next. They're keeping us all on the edge of our seats. And also on top of that too, they're keeping the price. They're keeping the price so high. And with inflation, how are you supposed to buy product? It's insane. It's crazy. Why do you think I'm still staying on AM4 platform? It's because there's upgradability. I still got a lot of upgradability with my motherboard. I'm not jumping to AM5 because guess what? Every time I want to go to AM5, the next thing comes out on Reddit. Oh my God, this processor just burned up. And it's either AMD or it's Intel. So, and I'm like, oh my God, being in the consumer's shoes, what the hell? Come on, guys, think about it. NVIDIA does that on purpose to be able to charge more for a very small upgrade. It's not worth it. True. Yeah, but wait until first of the year when AMD starts doing it. It's like one hand holds another. Remember, AMD does processors and graphics cards. So they have their hand between NVIDIA and Intel. So they're like split like this. So I am happy with my AMD machine. You know what? That's cool. That is cool. I'm glad that, if it's giving you the performance you want, there it is. I did something yesterday that I hope I don't regret, but no, I'm not going to say I regret. I'm never going to regret it because I always love hardware. It's not the name. It's not AMD's name. It's not Intel's name. And it's not NVIDIA's name. It's not Gigabyte. It's not Asus or any one of the names. It's the hardware. It is the hardware that does the talking. Okay? If this hardware that I'm going to be getting in the next week or so is going to be good or great hardware, we're going to post it. I got a new computer build that's going to be coming up in the next 2 weeks, maybe less. So, yeah, NVIDIA is getting into CPUs now, but it's going to take them at least 10, maybe 5 to 10 years to actually have it perfected for the desktop. They're doing it for AI, but they're not doing it. They're doing it for AI acceleration, but they're not doing it for AI desktop processors. So NVIDIA isn't there yet. They first got to learn to chew gum before they can walk. I'm going to tell you that. So they haven't gotten there yet. Would have been nice. Would have been nice if NVIDIA jumped into the market and said, guess what? We're going to get our market in for desktop processors. We're going to get they should already be getting their, sooner or later, their fingers into the laptop soon. I've been hearing about that they've been putting their fingers into the laptops. They might want to start going CPU on laptops as well. But like I said, where most of the beans is right now, it's going to be laptops, because looking at the way the pricing's going on right now, everybody's more steered over to laptops than they are desktops. Your best selling right now is your laptop. laptops is because they're lowering the price enough, but giving enough performance. And listen to what I have to say, giving enough performance on a laptop to beat a desktop. And that's sad. That is sad when you build your system from A to Z and you can put in all this untouchable hardware with all this amount of watts and everything else, but you're being beat by a 35-watt laptop. Is that not insane? Somebody told me that, and they says, it's a shame that you'll put all that money into a desktop, but when it comes to a laptop, my laptop's going to be faster than your desktop. I'm like, oh my God. Yes, I do agree. Many PCs are getting popular. I do see everybody getting ready to populate with that. I see a lot of people, looking for those little minis. I was talking with a couple people the other day about that too. I was like, oh man, no. One little Arduino can power a graphics card. They not power a graphics card, but it can get pretty close to, plugging in a graphics card, an actual regular size graphics card. So that's going to be interesting when that falls into line. Something no bigger than this, sitting there powering a big old graphics card. With the power supply, of course. So that is going to be one thing that's up on the plate. Getting back a little bit to the Intel snake oil thing that they're trying to, criticize AMD for. I think the other reviewers pretty much hit the nail on the head. And said what they had to say about it. I said what I had to say in the video about the snake oil. I had my points in there, which are pretty much true. So, but as time will roll on, I am looking forward to the new build. I'm changing the subject now. Getting away from the Intel and moving up into the subject. I'm looking forward to the new build that I got for a friend, a good friend. It's going to be their Christmas present. I got a video coming up sometime today on my thoughts and what's going on with that. So I didn't want to reveal it here just yet. I will let y'all wait for that video for it to come up, and I'll post that video all out to y'all so you can see it. So you have to wait for that video. I don't want to give away any more than I've already given away because I want to show you exactly what I picked out and, what's going to be going into the build. This will be my end of the year build. So this will be the last build I'll have for the end of the year. Just to let y'all know that. So it doesn't become crazy. Well, I keep scratching my nose. Jeez. Sorry, I have to. But this now, I'm going to bring up something about NVIDIA. There's word out that NVIDIA is going to go forward with the RTX 4090D, but that's still in limbo, just in limbo, but there's still word that they're going to go with it. But the caveat to that is that they're deciding to lock it down to where it can't be overclocked. So if they ship it to China, it's not going to be able to be overclockable. So if you've gotten a 4090 now, be grateful you got it now, because when the 4090D comes out, you're not going to be able to overclock it. It's going to be set at stock settings, and that's as far as that's going. So don't expect it to get any overclocking capabilities with MSI Afterburner or anything, because it won't. It'll be locked down. So that's, I can't see, and I want y'all to comment on this. Right here. Paying $1,600 for a 4090D. Would you pay it? And that's the question. Would you pay for a 4090D $1,600, even though you know that the MSRP off of the original RTX 4090 is $1,600? But now they're giving the D version, the D means dragon, that they're taking that version and now they're locking it down. Would you pay for a GPU that's completely locked down? Y'all gotta let me know. I don't think I would pay for a GPU that's completely locked down. Now, I did pay for the 4070, and the power section is kind of locked and kind of not locked. There's a workaround with that. So if I want to put it, if I want to push more power onto the GPU processor, I could, but I don't feel that it's needed because it already overclocks over 3 gigahertz. The GPU goes over 3 gigahertz already as it is. Like the 4090, like the 4080, like the 4070 Ti, the 4070 does the same. So, just to let you know that. So, I have been thinking about, I know I'm just kind of jumping around today, just kind of mixing it up a little bit, but I have been thinking about the AMD, the 8000 series. I have been thinking about that because that's going to be with integrated graphics. So I have been thinking about that. Sorry, I haven't bought an NVIDIA card since 86 or 87. That's fine. Look, I have integrated graphics on AMD that I do love because, when I go on certain games, it runs like a beast. I mean, integrated graphics, I know you kind of say, well, it's not discrete graphics. I know that. But the games I play on gives me great FPS and it just runs like a champ. So I can't complain about the integrated graphics for AMD, because if you think about this, and I want you to really think about this, the integrated graphics are you can set all max settings in your BIOS of your motherboard for your integrated graphics. So I set mine to the max. That means, guess what? I don't have to have extra programs running. I don't need AMD Adrenalin installed. I just need the drivers. That's it. I don't need any other happy-go-lucky kind of stuff, because all that stuff is built onto the games when you go into the display settings. So if I go into display settings of the games, then I can set if I want FSR 3 or FSR 2 or whatever I want. So I really don't need that installed in the system for integrated graphics. You can, if you want to do I don't know. I mean, I really don't see the difference of not having Adrenalin in and having it in. So I don't see the difference. When it comes to integrated graphics, the iGPU, the APU, It's all the same thing. So having an APU, it's really not feasible to have integrated adrenaline software for AMD in there. It really isn't. I've tested it both ways, and with just having the drivers in and having AMD Adrenalin in. AMD Adrenalin is just an extra program, sucking up memory. So I took it completely out. I didn't see the need to have it. So, but I'll tell you what, I hope with this new 8000 series, GPUs, or not GPUs, APUs, they do decide to, with the Adrenalin software, they do decide to unlock some of the stuff in that software. I really do. From what I'm hearing, that the new APUs are supposed to be having just as much power as a 3060. An RTX 3060. That's what I was hearing. That they're supposed to have enough power, like close to the 6800, the RX 6800. They're supposed to have that kind of power. That they've upgraded them that much. You are correct, John Paul. They did invent that. Yes. Yes, they did invent that. And Intel, I guess they stuck with the integrated graphics processing unit, the iGPU. And then they switched over too. So it all started with the iGPU, APU, still same old, to me, still the same thing. But it's looking really good with the 12 CUs they're going to be having on that next best processor. What's going to come along with it, that's going to be the mystery. And right now, it's a lot of mystery that's going on with that 8000 processor. And also, too, they said they're going to have a 9000 desktop coming up soon, too. So do look forward to, AM6. Do look forward to AM6. Because it is, if I was reading it right, it's supposed to come at the end of January. If I was reading it right. AMD was the first to consumer 64-bit as well. Which is correct. They did that in 1994 or 93 or 92, somewhere in there. It was in the early 90s that they did that. That they went from 32 to 64. Okay. Intel's the one that stayed at 32 for a little while, and then they came up to 64 trying to catch up with AMD. Even though that in between Intel and AMD, they still have bad blood from all the way back into the 70s, all the way up to now. Just a little history lesson. So, but that was all over the deal they had on the XO 86, the 186, 286, on those processors back then. Those platforms, not processors, platforms. So yeah, there was an 80. Y'all know what I mean. They started off with their platform that way, and then they went to the 186 and the 286, 386, 486, and then moved their way up. Because AMD was a part of the 8086 up to the 286. And then Intel decided to give them the boot after that. So AMD decided to branch out to their own. Then they bought ATI graphics, and then molded it into, AMD graphics. Radeon. It went from ATI to Radeon. So, a little bit of a history lesson. I did try to keep up with them, and and all the quirks and everything, and it's just a lot of things went really bad between the 90s and the 2012. Things just went rock bad. So it was after the 2013, then things started to go on the up and up and up. So, and they did the best thing when they came up with the UEFI BIOS. Best thing they did. Oh, reminds me. Okay, for the ones that were talking about this, then let me get this out really quickly to you. I'll get it really quickly to you. BIOS setup. If you're going to set up your BIOS, do yourself a favor, do a lot of research on your BIOS. And BIOS flashback is basically, like Dakota said, it's to upgrade your BIOS. Now, to do BIOS flashback, you have to be very careful you don't brick your motherboard. Okay, you could do that by getting the wrong BIOS software and try to install it on certain motherboards. They brick. Okay, now if you get a motherboard that has a failsafe to it that won't allow you to put in that particular BIOS, then you got a good motherboard. Which I know there's going to be people that are going to say, well, I'm an Asus hater. Well, guess what? I got three Asus motherboards that will not let me put any different BIOS in other than the BIOS that was structured for that motherboard. So, if that tells you something, at least I know not anytime soon, I'm not looking at a brick motherboard. So, I have never yet had a brick motherboard, never will. So, but, I'm sitting there looking around. Sorry about that. Hopefully y'all are ready for CES. That's supposed to be coming up January the 8th. NVIDIA is going to be having out the Super Series. I don't know if y'all are getting set and ready for the Super Series on the NVIDIA cards. I know there's quite a few people that, that don't care for NVIDIA and their pricing. But you know what made that go downhill was, and I'm not defending NVIDIA. I am not. I would do this like I do for any other companies that are out there. Basically, NVIDIA got shunned because certain reviewers got up onto the and done videos about NVIDIA's pricing. It's bad. And that's where the downfall started. I know I was watching all these videos pop up, and I was watching Reddit as well. And then what happened is everybody was putting a bunch of negatives just about the pricing. You can't, if you have something else bad to say, yeah, okay, the 4090, the 4080, the 4070. Well, I haven't heard about the 4070 Ti yet, but the 4080, the power connector. Yeah, that was bad. Okay, well then, why not say something about the 7900 XTX? Having a bad heat sink. You know, a lot of people were complaining about that. It got fixed. Now NVIDIA fixed their power problem. Supposedly. So that's the reason why I got the RTX 4070, because it was an 8-pin connector. It wasn't that 16-pin, garbage connector. It was a regular 8-pin connector, a 6+2 connector, PCIe connector. And you know what? It's never caught fire. Never caught fire yet. And I've pushed this over the 208 watts through that connector. And it still hasn't melted. Just the other day, I've unplugged it just to check the plug and plugged it back in. The plug looks like like the first day I plugged it in. So, I got a really good deal. I don't know why these companies went to that. I don't know why NVIDIA went to that 16-pin connector. I really don't. They would have been better off to take and stack 4 8-pin connectors on that motherboard. They would have been better to do that. Really. 2003 is when the Athlon 64 was released. True. But it was 2001 that it was in beta. That it was in beta testing for 2 years. And then it came out. So I didn't like Optitron. I really didn't. So you couldn't really game with Optitron. That's basically like saying get yourself a Threadripper, put it on one of those A620 motherboards, and try to get the maximum. It's just an example. Try to get the maximum FPS out of it. You can't. Threadripper won't plug into an A620 motherboard, but it's just an example. But Optitron's like Celeron. Operated just like it, and it would. Yes, you're right. It is business and workstation. Celeron they tried to use for laptops and everything else, and it was just basically a workaround from Celeron. That's all it was. So they were the most garbage chips you could ever buy. Now when AMD come out with the Athlon was really good. The 4-core 8-thread Athlons. I thought they were really good, all these years. They're probably still good right now till today. But with your new type gaming, the way the gaming's rolling around, the 4-core 8 threads are kind of going extinct. Now, what's really being utilized in Windows is your 8-core 16 thread. You can use a 6-core 12 thread, don't get me wrong. But mostly being utilized in Windows right now is your 8-core 16 thread. But that's on the AMD side. I'd rather have an 8-core 16 thread or a 6-core 12 thread than, getting myself like a 12 600K from Intel and try to outdo the 5600X from AMD. Or, yeah, I said the 5600X from AMD. Pretty much your 12600K can keep up with that. And I had somebody put on one of my videos on left a message on one of the videos that, and don't get me wrong on this, they said that the Intel 12900K all the way up to the 14900K will blow any AMD processor out of the water. Get this. I said, no. You need to check yourself. Because many reviewers were saying even the 5800 X3D, and there's benchmarks on this too, will knock all AMD processors down below where they need to be. The only ones that the 5800 X3D did not really beat was the 7800 X3D and the 7950 X3D. Pretty much those two were kind of on the top shelf. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I go to the AM5 series, am I just going to get myself a 7700X or a 7600? Some people say for $200, get yourself a 7600. They say for, let's say, $120, get yourself a B650 motherboard. Probably 140 now. But you figure you do the math, and by the time you get done adding everything up, it'll equal out to about $500. For me to upgrade my system, it would cost about $500 to go to the AM5 platform. Out of what I have here now to upgrade it, it would cost $500. Depends on where you shop. You can go, if you want to do used, you could probably get it for half price off of eBay. I call it e-waste because that's basically what it turns out to be. Every time somebody buys something off of there, I'm always seeing the discussion of people saying that, they bought something from eBay and it turned around and didn't work. I hear it all the time. Well, then you're stuck going to the people that repair these things so you can get it working again. And then you can spend another $150 and $200 just to get it to work when you could have already went and got yourself a brand new one and it didn't cost you all that. So you're saying the 5800 X3D beats the 13900 and the 14900K. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what I got. When I was doing my investigation, I would just go ahead and show you all really quick on what I was able to pull up. And I pulled this up from a well-known reviewer like Gamers Nexus. Okay. And this is at stock. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over there to the action screen. This is what I got. At the top, right here at the top, it says the R7 5800 X3D 8-core 16-thread stock. Stock. Huh. says 116.5 on the 1%, and it says 174.3 on the average peak. So I looked at all the numbers, and you can see this for yourself. Yes. If you want my opinion, the X3D has more L3 cache. It's more directed to gameplay. So your best bet is the 7800 X3D. If you want the best of the best, because it's only a single C. It's not this. Geez, sorry, I went and got stuck on this. It's got a single chip. It's got multi-chip design, but the thing is it doesn't have any CCUs. It has one set of chips to where it doesn't run two sets. Okay, basically it's an 8-core 16-thread processor instead of it being a 16-core 32-thread processor. Okay, now on your Intel processors, they go 12-core 24 threads. They should be going 12-core 32 thread. Yeah, CCD, my bad. I was sitting there trying to think of the name, and it's just like it's all that's in my head right now. Thank you, John Paul, for saying that. Do appreciate it. So when you look at everything, and at the end of the day, even the 7950X3D has two sets in one processor. 2 sets in one processor, 16 core and 32 threads. Now, with Intel limiting the threads, see now, and I'm going to explain to you all about the threads. Okay, what the threads do is they make it like an extra channel to each core. So if each core has two channels, the flow through is a lot easier. So the through output is a lot evenly. It works a lot faster than to have just one channel going back and forth, because then your program has to stop and wait until the other program is finished with that core in order for the next program to start. But with it having the through output having two threads there, the flow through is continuous. It doesn't stop. But what Intel did is they cut off, I think it was 8, they cut off like 8 threads from certain processes just to put the E core onto the chip. And that's how they did the P core and the E core. So basically they cut away certain threads from the E core to push it over there to the P core, which, you know, I don't consider E cores threads. Really, I don't. Well, I'm speaking from experience. I have the 7800 X3D system paired with the 7900 XTX. Okay, well, this is the point. If it's working for you, then it's working for you. If it's not, it's not. But I can tell you from what other reviewers are saying about, you know, this is not really pushing it towards Intel anyway. This is just giving the factor of AMD and their AM4 series being almost just as good as the AM5 series. and people trying to save money. The whole idea, try to get this out, is that people don't have the kind of money to spend to go up to the AM5 series. People don't really have this kind of money to spend to go up to the 14th gen. I can't see paying $600 for a processor that's doing just as good as your last gen. I really don't see it. That's in certain games. Look, it's like this, okay? It's like with NVIDIA. There are certain graphics cards will play well in games. We know this. But AMD's graphics cards will play well in certain games. We know this. This is the way the developers made this. So we know one hand washes another. We know all about that. We know Intel processor will run great in some of the games that, AMD won't be able to run it. We know this. That's because they're designed to go for that game from the developers. So that's just focused on that company with those games. But there are some that, that are more focused on AMD, and, look at the skew of it all. It's 50-50 from soup to nuts, right down from beginning to end. So no matter way you look at it, each one of the companies out there has to be in hand, one, so that way they all get along with each other. They all work with each other regardless. Okay? Us as consumers, what we see is the back end of it all. We see the pricing. Well, you know what I mean. But the matter of the pricing, the back end pricing, and the matter of the performance and everything else, we see more than the companies do, because the reviewers that are out here putting out that performance is showing the community what's really happening. Yeah, the companies can put out their little skew, but when you got multiple reviewers giving the same thing on performance, then that kind of, how many people you think have tested, Intel chips, AMD chips, NVIDIA chips? Think about it. How many people out there have tested these things? A lot. Not just a little, a lot. So I'm just one tiny little man in his realm right here. One tiny little reviewer amongst the big fish in the pond. Okay? Everybody has their own saying about this way is going to be right, and this way is going to be right, and this way is going to be right. But guess what? Nobody's wrong at the end of the day, because as long as you can play your games, and you're happy with it, there's nothing wrong with it. Because you picked out what you wanted that's going to work for you. Just like I picked out what I wanted that's going to work for me. Everybody has their own choice. So it's the matter of me not trying to convince everybody. I'm just telling you what's happening with my system. I'm not too focused on Intel right now. It's because I haven't stepped into Intel's world. I have a PC here that's Intel, an 8th gen processor Intel, but I haven't stepped into that yet, because I want to see what 15th gen has to offer from Intel. I'm going to save my money up to see that, because I want to see what they have to offer for 15th gen. Because hearing the rumors of them closing the gap on the motherboards to where you're going to need a new motherboard for the 15th gen, it just doesn't make sense to me to go buy a 14th gen to go and pay again to get a 15th gen. It just doesn't make sense. And in consumers' mind, a lot of people in this world's mind, they would look at it the same way. Why am I going to buy a 14th or a 13th or any of them when I can, stay on what I'm at, what I have, and then wait for the 15th gen to come out with new motherboards? That's pretty much what everybody's saying right now. because then you'll have three generational upgrades, maybe 4, you never know. Or Intel might change their mind and say, guess what? They're going to put 15th gen on the LGA 1700. Think about it. We don't know yet. We're still waiting to see what they're going to do with Meteor Lake, and they're not saying anything. They're leaving all the reviewers hanging in the wind. So, you know. So, it's just a matter of inflation and what people can afford and what people can't afford. Okay. When it comes to affordability, I can go back a couple years and say affordability back a couple years was a little bit different than it is now in 2023. And now that this is the end, let me pull it out of my shirt. Even though that this is the end of 2023, the pricing's been doing this. Okay, like for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, they would back the prices off enough to where it was a month ago, to where everybody's thinking that, you know, you're getting something wonderful for this price. You're not. They've been doing this the whole year. They've been doing this the whole year with the pricing. It's not just Nvidia. AMD's done it a couple times. Intel's done it a couple times. And all these AIB partners have done it a couple times. They all been doing it all year long. They're all culprits of this. And we're just the pawns that get into, you know, the field of, we're stuck into the trap that these companies put us in. Well, they're not going to trap me into this, because I'm bringing it right downtown. You know, where is the new performance? First thing I'm going to look at, where's the new performance? Where's all the new performance? And I'm not just going to say this for AMD, Nvidia, Intel, Asus, Gigabyte, MSI, or I'm going to say with all. Okay, where is the something new? And the only thing I seen something new was, out of this whole year, was Asus coming up with the idea of taking those extra 8 lanes off of the PCIe and putting an SSD card onto a graphics card. That's all I've seen all year long. I have not seen nothing new. Performance-wise, haven't seen nothing new. You all tell me if you've seen something new in performance. You tell me if you've seen something new in performance. I mean, and with the going back to the CCD thing a little bit, John Paul, the problem with the CCD thing is this, is Windows scheduling, even on Windows 11 scheduling, parks half the cores on the 7950X3D. Rarely uses those cores, and you got a 16 core 32 thread. Does not utilize any one of those cores. Just parks it. And the only way you can unpark it is if you use, what do you call it? Game Pass? What is that? Something that I know I pulled out of my system. Oh, the Xbox Game Pass. That's what it was. So you have to have that in order for it not to park most of the cores that's on your 7950X3D. And that's kind of something to think about. See, what's got me in a dilemma is this. What's got me in a pickle is this. One, Intel. Intel gives you processors that are 16 core, 24 threads. I can't see it. Why couldn't you give me a processor with 32 threads? What's the problem? Why can't you give me what I've seen on it? They had a couple processors that you go 12 core, 16 threads. Why? Where's the rest of them? Where's the rest of the threads up on their processors? It's all because they decided to stop doing hyper-threading and decided to do things a different way, that now we lose because of this little redundancy they put into their processors. The redundancy causing, little bit of latency issues because we don't have enough threads on the core. If you got a 12 core and you only got 16 threads, instead of it having 24 threads, that puts latency onto the processor. Let's see. Something to consider: the total amount of system memory you want on DDR4 memory max is 128 gigabytes of RAM. DDR5 is max is 192, which is true. I do agree with you on that. Has the capability with newer development, which is true, but you're only going to be going up 2 more sizes. Because what's going to come after the 9000 series on AMD? What's gonna happen when they go full blown on Zen 6? That's what we're waiting to see. We're waiting to see if they're going to increase anything on Zen 6, which 192 gigs of RAM is not bad for your system motherboard. Okay. That's not bad for your system motherboard. But what if these game manufacturers, well, not manufacturers, but these game builders, they decide that they're going to push your system RAM up to that amount? But that's in the near future. That's not now. That's in the near future. What if they decide to push it over 128 gigabytes of RAM? That you need, system RAM that you need. What if they decide they're going to push it that hard? Do you think your processor is really going to handle using up 128 gigabytes of RAM? No, it's not. You'll be barely lucky if you ever reach 192 gigabytes of RAM. With the newer processors, you'll be really lucky. But unless you do a lot of creator work, which deals in a lot of 3D artwork and stuff like that, you might be able to get it there. I've heard maybe 1 or 2 people say they almost had it there. But they're on the newest motherboards. And these are friends of mine down south. They tell me these things. They said they're almost there, but they couldn't get it there. I was like, it's a good thing then. But I'm going to talk to you all about this a little bit too. There's another reason why I still stay on AM4 series. One, AMD is not done pushing out new processors for AM4 series. Do remember, they're now going to push out the 5500 X3D, which is supposed to come early next year. And that's the Ryzen 5 5500 X3D, and also too the Ryzen 7 5700 X3D. Was it? Yeah, it was the 5700 X3D, because I got the 5600 X3D here, which I picked up from Micro Center. which was a really good deal. So you figured when I got the 5600 X3D, it was $229 and $100 for the motherboard. So it was $329 total package. Really good deal. So I got that motherboard and I got the X3D that I'm going to be doing in my end of the year build, which is going to be coming sooner or later. I'm just waiting on the parts. As soon as I get the parts, then I'll do the build. I was deciding if I was going to do it live or not. I'm probably not going to do it live. I'm probably just going to do it over video because they're probably going to want their new computer as soon as possible because they do work on their computer. So that I'll be like on a time crunch when it comes to building that. So the positive and every one of these companies are going to have positives and negatives. Okay. You got one company that's going to be stronger in certain stuff that people need, and then other companies are going to be stronger in certain stuff other people need. Like, let's say with rasterization. AMD is really good at rasterization, where that's NVIDIA's downfall. Now AMD's catching up with ray tracing. Slowly. They're catching up to NVIDIA with ray tracing. But that's on the light side. They haven't reached to the heavy side yet. So, it's going to be like a little bit of a jungle. But NVIDIA is really strong on heavy workload of ray tracing. Heavy workload. So, that's one thing. And it's like if you want to go to another SKU to where you look at Intel. Everybody says Intel's the best for the simple fact that they have less problems with software to hardware, that it's easier to work with. Okay. I don't see the difference in between Intel and AMD. I really don't. When it comes to hardware to software, I don't see the difference. Because Intel doesn't update as much as AMD does. Truthfully, they don't. Now, the last time I got Intel drivers, it was a mess. See, what you all don't know, well, you probably do know. If you go back to before 2010, I think that's when Intel decided that they're going to close their databases for software upgrades. I think it was 2010. I might be wrong on it. Y'all can let me know if I'm wrong on it or not. But I think it was in 2010 that they cut out the software upgrades, or they're transitioning to it. And the reason why they were transitioning to it was because all the hacking and everything else that was going on out there. And they wanted less headaches, and they needed more room for all the new stuff that they're going to be doing for the future term. So everybody said, hey, okay, well then just pack your drivers away. But turn around, if you go to use an older system, you'll have a hell of a time getting driver software for Intel. Anything that's from 7th gen down, trying to find, software, I've had the hardest time in the world. I've had to go to, I had to go to sites I didn't want to go to just to get some driver software. It's crazy. Intel should have had a backup storeroom with all their software that, we could get with it being antivirus free, being free of any virus, and being safe. But they didn't do that. AMD, on the other hand, is still holding their database. So AMD still holds their database when it comes to older software, to a certain point. But more the point is, I can't. I gotta jump hoops to get Intel software. So what everybody does is they rely on, guess what? Microsoft. They rely on Microsoft to have the correct software for their processing chips and everything else. But turn around, you don't have manufacturer software. You have Microsoft software, which Microsoft software is not complete. It's just my opinion. It's not complete. I don't know why I've had so many blue screens and crashes and everything else just using Microsoft software. I was best off to just get it from the manufacturer website. That way, all that quits. So, said and put. So, but anyway, I'm glad y'all stuck around for the torching, me getting torched. Not so much being torched, but y'all brought up some decent points, and and I know there's a lot of AMD fanboys out here, and there's a lot of Intel fanboys, and there's a lot of NVIDIA fanboys, and so on. Okay, everybody is a fan of something, and everybody enjoys certain products that they get from certain companies, and the computers they put together are the best of the best of the best that they can afford at the time of building it. So, with all that to be said, it doesn't matter what company you buy from. It doesn't matter, because it's just a name. When you pay for the name, that's what the price is. So when you're paying for the hardware, that's a different story. So imagine a third of the cost, well, about half the cost alone, for every piece of hardware. You're just paying for the name. The other half is just the hardware. So that's how you gotta look at it. Then you have Android and iOS. Yeah. On cell phones. Maybe it's time to make Android OS run x86 based hardware. Desktop systems. So you can do that on a Windows 11. Windows 11, Microsoft decided that they would allow you to run Android-based system off of Android-based OS off of Windows 11, to where you can get stuff from the Play Store and everything else. They have that option in Windows 11, not Windows 10. Windows 10, you would have to use a separate program. But with Windows 11, they were supposed to integrate it into the system to where you can get, you could run Google Play Store on your Windows 11 system. So they were supposed to have that too. And also too, that when it comes to, they're also supposed to have that, what do you call it? That GPT chat thing. They're supposed to have that GPT chat on there too, that they're supposed to be integrating within a certain amount into Windows 11. They're supposed to be integrating that into Windows 11 too. To me, if you want my opinion on the AI program that they're going to put into your computer, it's nothing like but a chat buddy. That's pretty much what it is you type in, you know, and it's supposed to give you all this miraculous algorithm codes and stuff. That's the only reason people like it is because of doing it like that. But if you like playing your Android games, and I'm going to say this, make sure you got Windows 11, because in Windows 11, they're supposed to have to where you can run the apps from Google Play Store onto your Windows 11. They're supposed to be, you can switch the desktop to, they're supposed to have a switcher in there. You can switch the desktop to tablet or Android. So they already got that. They already got that covered with Microsoft, John Paul. So I haven't investigated it yet because I'm still on Windows 10. I'm still skeptical about Windows 11. Okay, I got Windows 11 in my sleeper build over there. I don't know. I mean, I enjoy Windows 10 more than I do Windows 11, to be honest with you. But in 2025, I know Windows 11 or Windows 10 is going to be like, you know, not going to be able to get driver software, not going to be able to get updates and everything else. I already know this. You know, you're gonna lose all the benefits unless you go up to Windows 11. I already know this. That's just to let you all know, if you didn't know it, you know, coming 2025, I think they said September or October 2025, that you're going to lose your benefit of getting antivirus updates, and also too your critical updates and everything else. But you know what's really funny about that is, you know what's really funny about that, about the updates and stuff. When Microsoft said they were going to do that for Windows 7, they took and kept doing updates for another year. So they might decide to do it instead of 2025. They might go up to 2026. So you never know. Make Android OS run native on 86, not as an add-on to Windows. So when you use it like a cell phone. Okay, well then, you know, you just download the Android OS, you know, onto an SD card, you know, something like this, an SD card, the Android OS, like I think it's up to what, 16 or 18 or somewhere in there. Download the latest, you can get it off the internet. Then turn around and take out your SSD card that's in your on your motherboard. Then plug in a new SSD card with nothing on it, format it, and then take your Android OS and just put it on your Windows-based system. They have programs out there that you can get for Android to go on your Windows OS, your Windows system. Just the Windows itself, or the Android itself onto Windows. Or not onto Windows, but onto your computer without Windows. They do have that. Hey, if they can do Linux, what do you think? They can do it just like Android too. And you can run your computer like you do on your telephone. They do have a program that's out there for Android OS. So do keep that in mind if that's something you're looking for. And you can, and that they made it to where you can run it on an x86 based system. But what Microsoft wants to do now is they want to remove the x86 system, the x86 chips off of computers, and they want to go to the ARM chips, which has been in talk, which they're transitioning it to ARM based chips. So they want to get off the x86 chips and go to ARM chips for your desktop PC. Believe that. AMD's already in talks with ARM. NVIDIA's already in talks with ARM. The only one that's not in talks right now with the ARM chip companies is Intel, because Intel makes their own in-house processors. They do all their in-house work. So they don't, boo-boo theirself off to any other companies to help them build a processor. Now, back in the late 60s, back in the late 70s, AMD and Intel used to run side by side, because AMD used to make Intel coprocessors for the motherboards. So the motherboards used to have an AMD coprocessor, which would be called your North and South Bridge. So just to let you know that. But deal fell through, and what happened was they split their own ways, and then Viacom come in, and then you got, Foxconn that came in. You got a whole bunch of different companies that came in all at one time and just pushed AMD off to the side. And AMD said, screw it, they're going to do their own thing. So they started building the processors, their own processors, their own, and after they bought ATI, then they started the whole Radeon thing. Soon as they got the purchase of ATI, they switched it over to the whole Radeon thing. So it's all good. Yeah, which is true. I'm going to tell you, which is true. But they are working on a plan. Microsoft is working on a plan to transition away from the x86. They're already in a transition period to work away from the x86, go to the ARM set, and AMD's already working themselves into that. AMD is already working themselves into the ARM set, and NVIDIA wants to get their hands on the CPUs so they can work it into their new SKU. They wanted to do the new ARM SKU for Windows, but it seems that AMD's working together with Microsoft over the ARM deal. So it's a lot of headache right now. It's a lot of going back and forth about it. But they want to transition to the ARM processors because they're more efficient and they run a lot better than the x86 processors we're on now. We're on how many year architecture? 40 to 50 year old architecture? Actual architecture. So it's about 40 to 50 years x86. Maybe 60, maybe more. Who knows? But x80, the 8086 architecture has been back from the late 70s all the way up. But it didn't start booming until the early 80s. But it didn't start to really roll out until after Microsoft come up with their stuff, whatever. Then you had the RISC chips. I can't remember if RISC and ARM CPUs are part of the same architecture. I was hearing that they were at one time. At one time they were, but But that all changed. Soon as Apple got their hands on it, the architecture started to change. So Apple created a totally environment set that's not even remotely equal to, that's above the ARM chips are way above the processing capabilities of the x86. I can tell you that. And as far as risk, like I said, risk. It's a big risk when you use one of those processors. A big risk. Because now, everything that you're talking about, for the BIOS, you no longer have control of your BIOS. So, it's not, the risk chips are not worth it, because when you don't have control of your BIOS and everything's done off of the chip itself, then that's a risk you take. Yeah. Yeah. IBM had their hand in the x86. Okay. But you gotta remember, Intel didn't like what IBM was shoving out there at the time. Sorry. Intel didn't like what IBM was shoving out there. So they went on their separate ways. Intel became their own company. They became their own when it come to their processors. And basically now, Intel was basically business class servers for many of years. Business class servers. That's what their main focus was. Business class servers. Now, when AMD come on the site, they were more focused to the gamers. A lot of people think that AMD was focused towards business class servers. Actually, no, they were more focused to the gamers. Intel was more focused to business class processing servers, was because that's where the money was at the time. The money was there at the time. That's until everybody started, they started building the 186, the 286, and 386 computers, and then it went up to the 486, and then it started pushing towards gaming. So then, Intel wanted a piece of both of the pies. So, they've had many companies work with Intel. Intel's had many companies work with them over the period of years. But now Intel got to the point to where now they don't have barely any companies working with them. Except for maybe if they outsource to build processors in a different country, that's pretty much what they do. For us to get processors back in the United States, they outsource it to have them come back here. So, it is what it is, guys. I mean, no matter which way you look at it, no matter which way you cut it, unless you got a processor or a GPU or something that doesn't have China labeled on it, then, you know, if you get one that's labeled with China, you're going to have crappy parts. And that's just the way it's been for the last 5 to 10 years. Yeah, but there's one thing that was missed, John Paul. The one thing that's been missed, okay? The government never had to force Intel to share anything with AMD. There's a reason why I'm going to tell you this. Because back then, when it come to all their, all the goals and stuff they tried to create, AMD worked with Intel for quite a few months on architecture and everything else. And pretty much they both were just floating along, until they got up to that court battle. And when they got up to that court battle, because AMD broke the contract with Intel, that's where it all started. Back in the late 70s. So, it is what it is. And then, ever since then, either AMD gets butthurt or Intel gets butthurt. Either way, one of them's going to get butthurt. So that's the way you got to look at it. They looked at it like survival. It's a survival, of the GPU or the silicon. Okay. It's all due to the survival of the silicon lottery. Okay. Which company has the best silicon to sell to the consumer? It's all in the lottery. So do you really think that AMD had to force anybody to do anything? No. Do you think Intel had to force AMD to do anything? No. They did it for leverage. It's nothing but it's a piece of leverage that they put. Look at Bezos from Amazon, and how many times he took Elon Musk to court just so he can gain leverage, so that Elon Musk would lose not market share, but lose his ability to create the new the crew capsule, the new crew capsule to go to the moon. Sorry, my thought is just going in and out right now. So, but think about it like that. How many times they went to court? How many times? And AMD's taken Intel to court how many times? And Intel's taken AMD to court how many times? And Nvidia's taken, so on. It's a cesspool. Okay, it's a cesspool. And we're all around the cesspool. Because we're all it's like a treasure hunt. We're all on a treasure hunt looking for the next best thing when it comes to PC hardware. We're all on a treasure hunt. I mean, if these companies would get their head out their butts and then, start thinking about the consumer, and it doesn't matter what company it is, I say it to all the companies. Okay? I'm not just targeting one, I target them all. I don't fan club anything from any one of the companies. Like I told y'all, and I said this in the beginning when I first started my channel, and I'm going to say it now. And understand this. I don't go by the name. I go by the hardware. And if the hardware is not good enough, then I'll go where the hardware is good. And if the hardware is good, let's say on AMD, I'm going to go with AMD. You know, it's not the name, it's the hardware. You know, you have to have the hardware to put on your system to play your game. The hardware. It's not just because you have stenciled on there a name, because this is another thing. This is another thing. Just because the graphics card either says AMD or NVIDIA on the card, you don't buy it directly from AMD or NVIDIA. You buy it from Asus or MSI or Gigabyte or any one of those companies, those AIB companies. You're not just buying Intel or AMD or NVIDIA. You are buying into another company. Those PCBs that's made for that processor is being built by another company. So in actuality, if you got something like this that says Asus on it, guess what? It's not just because it says GeForce. It's because it says Asus Dual GeForce RTX 4070. Now, and you don't see on the front of the box where it says one little stamp that says NVIDIA. Asus made the PCB for this graphics card. So they are the sole responsible person for this graphics card, not NVIDIA. Asus sets the price for this graphics card, not NVIDIA. NVIDIA sets their price, but Asus sets their own price. So everybody has to back it up a little bit. When it comes to partner cards or partner motherboards, the only thing that sets the price when it comes to it all is the processors. The processors are made from AMD or they're made from Intel. They're not made from partners, which if they got TSMC, then they're made by TSMC. Okay. So, but it's AMD's or NVIDIA's or AMD or Intel's layout that gets put onto that processor. Just like when it comes to the graphics card with the graphics card processor, it is NVIDIA or Intel or AMD's layout that goes onto that PCB. But it's the board design of the AIB partners that makes it more theirs than it does NVIDIA, AMD, or Intel. So it sets the bar to a different standard. Yeah, I can agree to that. But that's where I just got done saying. AMD, and unless you buy it from AMD or NVIDIA, that's the only way you'll get their cards. But if you buy from an AIB partner like Asus, you're not getting just NVIDIA. You're getting Asus, or you're getting MSI, or you're getting Gigabyte. Okay? You're getting their tweaks, not NVIDIA's tweaks. There's a difference. You can buy from NVIDIA and get Founders cards. You can buy from AMD and get Founders cards. Okay? But when it comes to, like, the secondary sources, these AIB partner cards, The only thing the AIB partners get are the chips. That's all they get is the chips. Now, the rest of it is built by either, if you get an Asus card, the rest of it's built by Asus, not NVIDIA or AMD. AMD just sells them the processors. That's all they sell them. They don't sell them the whole graphics cards, no. I know I had to look that up. Some people told me, no, NVIDIA does is they sell them the whole complete graphics card and they just take and change the name. I was like, no, they don't. Not from what Asus told me. Asus told me they just sell them the processors, the graphics card processors. That's all they sell them. And I got that from Asus. So, I mean, you got to look at it that way. See, you got to have a whole different frame of mind when it comes to, thinking about where you're getting these parts from. Okay, it's just like your motherboards. Unless your motherboard is built by AMD and sold to you from AMD, or built by Intel and sold to you from Intel, you're just stuck getting it from somebody else, because that somebody else is going to build it their way, not AMD's way, or not Intel's way. These partners, they build everything their way. They gotta follow boundaries, yes, but they still build it in their own way, in a percentage. That's the whole point. NVIDIA was pricing FE cards for a much higher cost than a partner card would compete with. And then you noticed that the partners said, no, we ain't doing this. Some of them, why do you think EVGA left? They knew this bad was coming. EVGA knew this bad was coming. They just got out of it completely because they didn't want to deal with it anymore. It's just too much headache. See, there's so much headache behind one company, and they create 50 million problems. Instead of putting the fires out, they just make the fires bigger. They don't like the fires when they fizzle out and there's no fire left. They like keeping the fires going on and on and on. Okay, they don't stop the fire. That's what everybody has to understand. They never stop the fire. They always keep us rolling in the cesspool. We never stop. Is because they never stop doing the same crap. Simple. NVIDIA does it, AMD does it, Intel does it, they all do it. They all keep us rolling in this same cesspool. So, nothing ever changes. One day it might change, one day it might not change. Okay? And that day when things change and they start thinking, well, maybe the consumer is our key object. Our gamers are the key object. Those are the ones that are, putting a little bit of the bread and butter there. But what do you think got them started? What do you think got those companies started? Was because of the gamers. The gamers buying the hardware. The hardware is what I go by. And if the hardware is crap, I'm going to say it right here on YouTube, that the hardware is crap. If I think it's the greatest, I'm going to tell you it's the greatest. So it's just as simple as that. I'm not going to run. I usually don't run around telling everybody, well, look, I got this benchmark from this person, this benchmark, I get this benchmark from this person. I usually don't do that. But when I don't have the hardware and everybody else has done the testing and I see the benchmarks, yeah, I'm going to bring it up and let everybody know what I think about them. Okay. Those guys over there, they have the money to spend to do that. I'm a new channel, still trying to get up there. to where I can afford hardware, you know. But it comes to the fact is what it is. I got to work just as hard, even harder, to get this channel up to where it needs to be. But, you know, I'm still working to get hardware. And that's the key thing, because that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see every day a build. In order for them to come and subscribe to this channel, they want to see a build every day, every day, every day, every day. That's the only way you're going to get subscribers, is now they want to see a build every day. That's because there's, you know, everybody got to the point to where that's just all they want to see. They don't want to hear you talk anymore. They don't want to hear nothing. They don't want anybody to explain anything anymore, because they think that anybody explains something to you is not wisdom. All they just want, they want to see the proof. They want to see you build it. Which I do have a build coming up soon. And it's a Christmas present for somebody, by the way. So, I would like to see exactly the profit percentage for NVIDIA from the sale of GPUs for gamers versus then for business clients. Oh, so, yeah, well, should be up on the stock market. You know, you look at the 10-year trend, what they did before they started the AI boom and everything else, I can tell you they quadrupled their money by this AI boom, just like crypto mining. God. Now, how many people is telling me, oh, crypto mining is coming back? No, it ain't coming back. And when the U.S. government says to everybody, guess what? You're all going to have to pony up your dollar bills because we're going digital, that digital dollar. You ain't got no freedom left in life. So, that's just my opinion on that. That means anything you buy, they're watching you. Even if you go and use the bathroom, they're watching you. I don't know why they would be watching me do that. You know, I'm doing my business. I guess that's why. It's because it's business. And you take a newspaper in there because it's business. I guess that's the reason why they want to watch you in the bathroom. But anyway. The profit from gamers for NVIDIA is only like, maybe somebody was saying the other day was like 18 or 19%. So, and the rest is just business clients. That's what I hear. You know, it's like 18 or 19% of the gamers, and the rest is it might be less now. I don't know. I was hearing 18 or 19 last time. So that, I mean, you look at AMD. How much stock do they have into their gamers? Think about it. How much stock does AMD have into their gamers? And look at how much stock Intel has into their gamers. Intel is the lowest one on the poll right now. They used to be the biggest company in the world. They used to be the biggest company in the world. Intel. What happened? Well, nobody knows. NVIDIA could completely quit making chips for the consumers and went business clients, only their overall profits wouldn't drop too much. Which is true, their profits wouldn't drop very little. You would notice maybe $100 billion to $200 billion max. That would be it. But now they're $1 trillion company. Come on. Really? They're $1 trillion company. Now they are. They're even bigger than Elon Musk. And he's got how many companies? You know, think about it. I mean, I don't put too much stock in, you know, these, you know, usually if I get a company that reaches out to me and says, hey, can you showcase a product for me? I'll be like, sure, no problem. What you got? You know, how many times am I supposed to show it? You know, and stuff like that. You know, doesn't mean that I'm just doing it to showcase them. They sent me product. Come on, give me a break. But so far, I haven't had no company send me any product. Well, maybe because I only got, less than 300 subscribers? Oh my God. Let's see. Let's look on the battle wagon. And then everybody tells me they're quitting. I got 298, 2 subscribers away from 300. And I looked too. I looked to tell you how many I had. I got over 50,000 views. That's a lot of views, but, you know. Only reason I think that only reason Nvidia hasn't quit taking care of the gamers is because they know that when this AI boom sets in with the government and everything gets handled the right way, that they're going to push forward with this. That now our GPUs are going to be AI controlled. And they already know this. And that's what they're already working towards. AI controls. They already got it. You got the controls now, but wait until they have the software built onto the hardware where the AI controls what you see. Then you think about what games you can play. Think about the fact of Microsoft telling it, you know, spreading rumors about that Windows 12, you're no longer going to be able to own your PC because of Windows 12. Everybody's going to ask me why. And with this new AI thing that they're putting into Windows, your keyboard and your mouse might just disappear. They're already thinking about taking the power button off of the Windows platform for Windows 12 and put AI to control it. I don't know if y'all knew that, but they are. So, comes down to the end of the day, looks like in the next 5 years, it looks like it's going to be like, you know, we ain't going to have much left when it hits 2030. We're not going to have much control on our system probably by 2030, 2031. Who knows? Who knows what the government's going to have in store for us? So, but I'm not here to talk about what the government's doing. I'm here to talk about what these companies are doing. That's what I'm here for. And it is, I spent 2 hours with you guys, and I hope I spent enough time with y'all, but we still got a lot more things to talk about for next week and stuff like that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more stuff that's going to be coming up onto the roster about, you know, for January and stuff like that. So most of your events right now is going to be happening in January. There's not too much happening in December, so y'all are going to be looking forward on January the 8th to see if they're going to do a presentation on the Super Series for NVIDIA, and the 31st they're supposed to be doing a presentation for the Ryzen 8000 series, and maybe they're going to roll up with the Ryzen 9000 series for desktops. And also, too, the laptops, they're going to have that out there as well for AMD. And, you know, NVIDIA might roll out with some of their laptops as well. NVIDIA's been rolling out with a little bit more laptops than they have been, you know, worried about desktops. You know, the graphics card for desktops. I think they're more focused on the business class and laptops. That's kind of what my thought is too. NVIDIA consumer wins business. We have to understand that, you know, no matter what we do, we're all stuck in this cesspool of what's going to be coming out next. So, long as we all understand that, it can be good or it can be bad. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. We're all going to go back and we're all going to go forward. We're all going to go to the side. We're all going to go to the side. You know, ups and downs, you know. We're all going to go through this backwards and forwards thing with these companies. Okay? As long as the game developers are doing what they're doing, that's keeping those companies in their pace, we're going to be the ones that are eating the ham sandwich. We're the ones that eat the ham sandwich. We're the ones that are paying their bills. You know, that's what it comes out to. With reviewers, I haven't seen, in truth and reality, some of the main reviewers that I've seen a couple companies roll out with, you know, reviews, but not as many as it has been since last year. Last year, they had more reviews come out from these companies than anything. But this year hasn't been that many. And even a couple companies are hiding some things that they're rolling out on. So, you all know how it goes. So, but anyway, okay, you take care as well, John Paul. Thank you for stopping in. And I want to thank you all for stopping in to, you know, party with us here and everything. I know there's some things, and I want you to all understand. I know there are some things you don't agree with me about. I understand that. And, you know, that's going to be understandable. But there's some things that I'm not going to agree with what you all are thinking about. So we all are going to have our disagreements. We all are going to have our agreements. You know, that's all a part of life. So either way you look at it, you just try to enjoy life the best way you can. Okay? Simple as that. You enjoy life the best way you can and be happy, because life is too short. And having fun, gaming, and everything else, that's the key to, you know, being happy for you. Then that's the key to being happy. So, but just to say, and don't forget, if this is your first time here, please do subscribe. You know, and if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to the community here on JJPB. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do, helping support the channel. You know, watching videos from beginning to end, telling your friends come on down and subscribe, which is awesome. But it's time that I got to get going. So this has been fun for the last couple hours with y'all, you guys. And make sure y'all stay safe out there and try not to get into too much trouble. You know how that goes around here. So everybody's always going to have that little bit of trouble lurking on their backside. So try to keep safe and try to keep yourself happy and go lucky. But there's going to be many videos that we're going to have talking about many different things. So we'll just rest ourselves up for the next time. And don't forget, next Saturday, we're going to be rolling again. So, you can catch us on that video. Or no, we're going to go live next Saturday. So make sure you stick around for that. And also, too, I'll try to post out as many videos as I can. And also, too, y'all don't forget one thing. I think from the 15th to the 17th, I'm not going to have any videos of this month because I got kind of friends got surgery. I got to go drive them up there for surgery. So we're not going to have any. But if you know where my mobile channel is, all you got to do is go on to the home page of JJ's PC Builds. Down at the bottom, the mobile's right there. So make sure you subscribe there. So that way you'll get the latest news, when it comes up. And also, too, when I'm out and I'm on that little trip, I'll be able to have a device to where I can take and record. So you all ain't going to miss anything. Just to say. You're not going to miss anything, so make sure you subscribe to that other channel as well. And make sure you subscribe to this one too. If you've already had to, then thank you very much for doing so. And it's much appreciated. But we will see you all on the next video. Be safe and